One thing people don't think about is that there are different federal and state regulations. And if you're not in compliance, you could have a lawsuit on your hand later on. And so that's where I'm going to come to the next slide, which is, we have a lot of people that come to us and say, what if I've got my own TC? And that's fine if you have your own TC, but what you have to realize is that these stack method deals are more than just paperwork communication. We have a dedicated compliance team. They are going to look at every aspect of this. They have done over 100 of these. They know what to look for. They know the different regulations in the different states. They're going to make sure that everything's compliant. And tonight we're going to talk about roles and responsibilities. We're here to just kind of give you guys the nitty gritties of what stack method, also known as Morby method, also known as seller carryback, is all about, and how you can buy properties for zero down. As I said in our little paragraph that we sent you in the email, as well as I say every week, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Who doesn't want to buy a property for zero down? And so there's a lot of moving parts in these deals. There's a lot of work that needs to be done by all parties that are involved, and they're complicated. And that's why not everybody's doing them. But if you can learn and figure it out and have the right seller, what a great deal to buy a property for zero money out of pocket. And actually, usually in most cases, the buyer puts money in their pocket. So I just want to start off by saying, does anybody have any burning questions right off the bat that you've been wondering and need an answer for?
I do know that I spoke with Nicole earlier today, and she does have a deal that she wants you to look at. Would now be the time for that?
Maybe not in terms of if, I mean, possibly. I don't know what kind of deal it is. Yeah, Nicole, um, do you have something? Did you send us an email? I think you might have sent us an email.
She just said, yeah, she talked with me earlier today. She's got the numbers, but I don't know, Nicole, if now is a good time for you to unmute.
Okay.
I'm good whenever I'm available.
Let me take a quick look at that.
The email does not have any numbers or anything.
Oh, okay.
She's got the numbers right now. So yeah.
Okay.
She could share numbers. I told her to jump on here and share numbers with you.
All right. Well, let me minimize this for a second.
Perfect.
Okay. I need to get this not be full screen. And let's see. Here we go. Is this? All right. I think I have a stack method calculator that I can use. So yeah, Nicole, why don't you just give me the numbers and we can see at least if it makes sense as a stack method. Again, the most important thing, there's three things that have to happen for a stack method deal. Number one, there has to be a new loan. Number two, there has to be enough equity to cover the down payment and the closing costs and any fees. And then number three, the seller has to agree to carry back a portion of their profits for this to happen. So if all those things work, then it's just look at the numbers and see if there's enough room to cover everything. So what's the purchase price?
All right, let me jump on here. They're wanting 249.
Okay, 249.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, is this going to work? Let's see. Hold on. 249. Okay, and then
I might want to get them down a little more.
Do you know how much they owe on the property?
0.
Oh, that's always good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It'll
and
be a
then
straight seller finance.
do you know how much they're willing to carry back then?
They're open. They're waiting for me to pitch. So ideally, 60%.
Okay, now you're saying they would carry back 60%. That's a pretty high number. Are you looking to get like a DSCR loan?
Yeah, I just want to stack it. So that's why I wanted to get onto you guys to see if it'll work, if the numbers work.
Yeah, so let me ask you, what do you think you could get loan to value with a DSCR loan? 70%?
75.
You think you get 75? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I have in here right now, 75. So I would say, how much do they want to walk away with at closing? That's another question to ask the seller. How much do they want?
They'd like a big down payment.
They'd like a big number, you said?
Yeah, so probably like 40%.
Oh, they want to walk away with like 40% of their 249 purchase price. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
ideally. But again, they're open, they're ready for me to pitch. And
sure.
I did use your guys' calculator. 75% would not be ideal because I'm going to rent it. I honestly, it needs to be like 60% for the numbers to work.
Right,
I don't want to over leverage this property.
right. Well, yeah, if you don't want to be too over leveraged, then what I would do is carry back a smaller amount. So they're going to get, and then that gives them a bigger chunk, right?
Yeah, they'd be fine with that. Like I
How
said, I
much,
didn't know how to underwrite it, which is why
how much would you want to walk away with?
I'm good walking away with not much. I mean, I would either need to cash flow or I would need to put some money in reserves.
Okay. Um, yeah, let me share my calculator here real quick and I'll show you guys how we just tweak the numbers a little bit. Uh,
I just need to make sure like I'm not going to be negative. I can probably rent this property for about 1800.
so if you guys can see my screen here with the stack method calculator, we put in the 249 right here. We put down 0 for mortgage payoff down here at the bottom. And then we already had 75% loan to value for the DSCR loan. We've got some just generic numbers in here. We'd have to get real numbers from the title company and from the lender for those closing costs. But for now, those will work. And then what we're looking at is the maximum for the seller. And then you said you don't want a whole lot because you don't want to be over leveraged. If we
Correct.
had the seller carry back 40%, that would be 100,000. And that would put 32,000 in your pocket and 134,000 in their pocket, which is more than 40% for
They
them.
love that.
And then your current leverage ratio would be 1.15, okay?
Okay.
So in terms of a stack method deal, this makes sense. Now,
Okay.
what we can't help you with is you need to underwrite the property and see what it can produce. It has to produce enough to cover the monthly payments on the DSCR loan, which would be 186,750, and enough to cover whatever terms you go agree with to the seller on the $100,000 note. You add those two debts together, and you have to make sure that your income will cover the debt service coverage ratio. So we want to make sure we have enough to cover both of those. Do you have any idea what the property would bring in?
About 1800. The 18, so this is why I was talking about the 75%. That first lien amount, the 186,
Yeah,
ideally that would be a little lower because if I don't know what your DSCR lenders rates run at, but like my rate in terms, I can get them down to like 6.25, but some of them are like 6.99, some are 7.5. I don't know.
yeah, there's a lot of variables in there. It depends on your credit, your experience, what the property is able to produce is a big thing in the area that that property is in. So they're going to look at all those things. If we change this to 70%, let's try that.
Right. I guess my question is how would I underwrite that not knowing that?
So the way to underwrite, here's what I would do, okay? I would want to make sure there's plenty of room. You do not want to get upside down and not be able to cover this. Otherwise, it's negative cash flow, right?
Mhm.
So this is just thumbnail. I'm not an expert in underwriting and is the single family home rental? Is that what
Yes.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to write it as probably maybe just to be safe, 7.5. I know that's a high number, but my credit
Well,
score, which I talked to
I
um, Marcel about that.
what are you writing as 7.5?
The first lien amount
Okay,
amortized over
but
30
you're what
years.
you said you want to bring that number down. And I'm
Okay.
saying you could still do 70%.
Right.
The
So
lower
your
this
first,
number is, the lower your debt is to the DSCR loan. And the great thing with that is the loan with the seller, that's negotiable.
I'm
Like,
talking about the lien over here, the liens, the DSCR liens,
right, right.
they charge a percent. So what I'm saying is I'm going to run it at 7.5% amortized over 30 years to determine my payment amount to them, which will then help me determine my pay amount to the seller.
Right. What I was gonna say is I would use like 8 or 9%. Give yourself more room.
That's a lot.
I
I've not
I
met one
know.
that does that high. Do your guys do that high?
I have heard some DSCR loans are at 8 or 9%. It just depends on who you're getting the loan from and what you qualify for, right? But yeah, I mean, somewhere you've got to have some buffer in there. So
Right.
whether you put the buffer in by borrowing less and having less in your money at closing, or whether you do a higher interest rate just to be safe.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I would talk to some DSCR lenders and get some real numbers based on the property, just so you have a better idea how to underwrite that, right? But 1,800 a month, I'm not sure. You know, if you throw that into a loan calculator, if you borrowed 174.3, and like you said, on a longer time frame at 7.5, what are your monthly payments coming out?
Right. 1,400. But that's why I wanted to do 60%,
Ah,
not
so
70.
you're saying 60% loan to value.
Correct. I'm not too
Let's
concerned about pulling a lot of money out.
Right. Okay. So now we need the seller to carry back just a little bit more to make
You have
this
it at
number down.
8%. You have it at 8%.
I have the LTV at 6%, 60%.
I can't see that. It looks like an
Oh,
8.
sorry, 0.6.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is increase this to like 110
Okay.
and see if that does the, whoops, it didn't take it. There we go.
Okay.
So now you're only at 1.04 on the leverage ratio in the far right corner, and your loan is about 150.
Okay.
And your seller carryback is 110, and the seller is still getting 125 at close, so that's good for them. And here's the thing: if your loan is going to cost 1,400, okay, and your
Right.
rent is 1,800, that means you only have $400 to play with.
Right.
So you're going to have to figure out what terms are going to give you maybe $200 a month to the seller. I don't know. I'm just saying this is where talking with somebody who has purchased a lot of single family homes, maybe even in this type of an area, like talk with somebody who has the experience in buying that asset class. We always say get help underwriting with somebody who buys in that asset class. I haven't bought anything and I don't even know where this property is. So there's no way I could underwrite this for you. But in terms of the seller carryback, there is some room here. Okay. It sounds like the only thing is we have to make sure that you can cover that. So if you're saying 1,800 rent, that doesn't give a lot of room to pay that note off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess what's confusing me is it says seller financing, and that's actually what they're carrying back, right? Not what we're putting down. Because I thought,
Yes. Yes. Good. So what the seller carryback is the amount they are willing to carry back. The percent, the portion, 44% in this case, of their profit gets carried over time on a note. So you're basically they're going to be the bank for you at 110,000. Now, the down payment and the closing costs, they're over here on the right side. The down payment is 99.6, right? Almost 100,000. With closing costs, what we need to close is 102. So that's what we would fund. We would fund that 102.58 and then our fee. And so this is what we would have to bring to the table for you, right? So yes, the down payment is over here, but the amount you're financing on the note is the seller financing amount. Does that help?
it does. They're willing to carry more. Because
Right. They're willing to carry more, but again, it's more about what the terms are on that note and how much you're going to owe them monthly, knowing that you've only got $400 to work with.
right. Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's where the underwriting comes in, and that's your role. In fact, we're going to talk about roles. This is a perfect lead into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is roles and responsibilities. And thank you for bringing this deal so that we could look at one on the calculator. That's really helpful. Again, I would urge you to get with somebody who understands properties in that area or that type of asset class and have them look at the underwriting with you and crunch the numbers because there's a lot more to it than just paying the DSCR loan and paying on the note. You've got to factor in taxes, insurance, and all the other, utilities, other expenses. and there has to be enough to cover, right, with what
Right.
income you have. Otherwise, like I said, you don't want to be negative cash flowing unless that's your strategy. Some people just want the write-off, but I don't think,
No, I've underwritten all that.
yeah, okay,
That's
perfect.
why I need it. That's all done. I know what my insurance is. I know what my taxes are. I
Right,
know what I'm gonna. They're open to what they're being paid.
right.
My question was, can I make that work with the DSCR loan? But I wasn't underwriting as 8 or 9%. I don't think anything will work with that. So
Well, and that is the challenge. But again, it also comes down to the terms of that note. Maybe, some people have negotiated no payments for 6 months, or 0% interest, or interest only payments. Whatever's going to work for your numbers, you can negotiate that with the seller. That's the real magic in these, is the negotiation power on that seller financed amount, right? And again, that's where you got to know all your numbers. Now, like I said, if I were you, I would start talking to DSCR lenders. It's really good to do that up front. Find out what the rates are on a property like this. Hey, I've got this property. Just want to know ballpark. They may have you fill out a form. Just make sure they're not hitting your credit, for a credit check. Just say, look, I just need some numbers here. Can you tell me what kind of interest rates I might be able to get, and talk to some lenders and get some ideas so that you have a better underwriting on that portion of it in terms of what it's going to cost you, right? So,
Yeah, and
I
Nicole,
was just under the impression that you guys had, because there's a lot of misleading in this business, like people lying to this person, that one lying to that person. I'm not comfortable with that. So that's, I thought you guys had those. So if not, then I apologize. I can start looking
when
for
when you
lenders.
say have those, are you talking
Don't
about
you have those connections, the
DSR? Oh,
DS?
yes, certainly. That's what I'm saying. Marcella can give you a couple names of DSR lenders, and you can give them a call and let them know what the properties you're looking at, and get a little bit of background information about you. And they should be able to give you at least a rough, I would think, idea of what the loan amount would be on that amount, right? That's what we're talking about. So yes, we do have
DSCR lenders.
DSR lenders that we can refer you to,
Mhm.
and that would be a good starting point. But you have to have the conversation with them and find out, based on this, and um, your information, what you're looking at.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you got it.
Yeah, Nicole, and also, I would just say, to that point, every DSCR lender, they are different in every
Right.
capacity.
Mhm.
So, make sure you come with a full list of questions, and I can give you an idea of some of those, but really, you just, you want to know, like, what's your process, what's your origination fees, what do are you going to pull a soft credit pool or hard credit pool? There's all these questions you definitely want to know answers to, so that you have a full understanding, of working with that particular lender, right? And so, yeah. And then also Frank did ask what state it's in, Nicole. Is it in your home state?
Yeah, I can give the address. I mean, these sellers won't sell to anybody but me.
Got it. Perfect. Love that.
All
Okay.
right. Well, hey, I'm going to jump into the roles and responsibilities. If you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand, or I think I actually made the raise your hand thing, at the very bottom there. You can click that, and Marcel will help keep me aware. Okay. So I'm going to jump into this so we can share some good information with you guys. Here we go. Okay. All right. Can you guys see that? Roles and responsibilities in stack method deal. A clear breakdown of every party's role, from buyer to funder, TC and attorney, in executing the stack method transaction. Like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people involved. Let's start with the buyer's responsibilities. We've had people who've come to us to use our services, and we do everything that is our responsibility, we will do, but there's certain things we can't do. We're not going to find the deal for you or get the deal under contract. That's the buyer's responsibility. Locate the property, get it under contract, or preferably secure a signed LOI before moving forward. Why do I say that? Because we have found that most people don't understand the stack method well enough to know that your purchase and sale agreement should not have anything in it about the seller carryback. It needs to be just a very plain purchase sale agreement with the total purchase price, and you bringing all the funds to closing. In terms of the DSCR lender is going to bring whatever, let's say 75%, and you're going to bring the other 25%, and then the closing costs are divvied up however they're divvied up. what people try to do is they try to put the seller carryback language in the purchase sale agreement, and then we have to start all over again because that's not how this works. We have to separate the two transactions. The first closing is at title is just a regular purchase sale agreement where our funds come into your business to provide that down payment and closing costs. The second closing is with the attorney, and that's where the seller carryback part happens. The seller agrees to send some of their proceeds over to our attorney. The attorney then records the note that you've agreed upon with the seller, and then the money gets sent back to us, and any extra money gets sent to you. So that's why we say if you start with an LOI, our team can help you with the purchase sale agreement. But if you start with the purchase sale agreement, we still need to have something in writing from the seller that says they're willing to carry back. All right, source of the DSCR lender. We can give you some lenders that we work with. And then if you sign up with our team, there's a whole list that they'll give you of other DSCR lenders. But this is where the work comes in, okay? These deals are not easy. Most of our clients have to talk to up to 10 different lenders before they find the right one that fits for their deal. And that's okay. And by the way, you're not really talking to a lender, you're probably talking to a broker. We talked about that last week. The broker then connects you with different lenders. All right. So it's a process. Okay. Identifying the right lender, working with those brokers, working with several different brokers to get everything done that you need to for that loan, obtaining the full loan approval, and then managing all lender documents, including appraisals and underwriting requirements. All those things are on the buyer. Resolving, seasoning, and sourcing. Now, this is one where we kind of partner with you. Okay. A lot of DSCR lenders are going to require some kind of sourcing. The money has to come out of the buying LLC's account, all right, the purchasing LLC's account. So what we do is we help you set up a Relay Bank account and put the money in there. Um, we will get you a proof of funds if you need that for the lender, but that's how we kind of work together on that piece in terms of sourcing and seasoning, okay? We could go into that more, but that's basically where we work together. But we need your help in setting up that Relay Bank account and communicating with the lender. All right, set up the Relay Bank account. Establishing that account is part of the funding structure before bringing the deal so that we can put our money into your LLC so everything works out. Obviously, there's always also paperwork that has to be done, lots of things to be signed, but that's the basic responsibilities of the buyer. All right. The TC's responsibilities, what the TC does for you. The transaction coordination is the backbone of every stack method deal. Their role goes far beyond simple paperwork and management. And almost every stack method buyer uses a TC because these deals are too complex for most people to handle alone. What the TC does is assist with the lender docs. Okay, once you have the process started with the lender, they will assist you with all the documentation and all the back and forth that happens with the lender. They will help to handle the transaction complexity. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of paperwork. There's some things you have to sign for our funding. There's some things you have to sign for the lender's funding. There's things that need to be signed off with the seller in terms of agreeing on the terms of the note. All of that needs to be coordinated in the right way and in the right order for these to work, right? They will also coordinate the closing table and make sure that everything the buyer has assembled and managed the full process to get everything to the closing. And then also a big thing is ensuring regulatory compliance. One thing people don't think about is that there are different federal and state regulations. And if you're not in compliance, you could have a lawsuit on your hand later on. And so that's where I'm going to come to the next slide, which is, we have a lot of people that come to us and say, what if I've got my own TC? And that's fine if you have your own TC, but what you have to realize is that these stack method deals are more than just paperwork communication. We have a dedicated compliance team. They are going to look at every aspect of this. They have done over 100 of these. They know what to look for. They know the different regulations in the different states. They're going to make sure that everything's compliant. We had a recent deal that we're trying to put together, and we don't even have as much experience as the TCs that are doing these because they're doing them every day, multiple ones a day. And so they pointed out to us, hey, these numbers aren't matching up. If we can't get these numbers to align, this could be mortgage fraud. And we're like, whoa, okay, we definitely don't want to do that. We don't want our client to be in that risk situation. We don't want to put ourselves in a liability situation as the funder. So we definitely want to be in compliance with what they're telling us. And it was really great because I think it's going to save this deal. We figured out a different way of structuring the numbers so that the numbers will line up and it'll still work for the buyer. But see, without our team, we wouldn't have known that, right? Um, Going it alone or hiring a lawyer. So again, if you try to go it alone and just use your regular TC to try to do one of these complex stack method deals, there is potential for lawsuits. There, you know, basically, it boils down to this. Our TC team that we work with, they're a separate entity, but we work with them on all these deals. They charge a $1,400 upfront non-refundable fee that covers the full TC services and the compliance oversight for your deal. You can choose to not use that and use your own TC, but just keep in mind that if something isn't in compliance and you end up in a lawsuit, which could happen, you'll be paying an upfront non-refundable retainer to a lawyer for about $50,000 before any work is even done. So to me, it's like using our compliance team on your first deal is a no-brainer. Maybe after that, your TC will be up to speed and they'll know what's going on. And if they're doing things in the same state, they might be able to handle the paperwork and that would be great. And we're fine with that. We can just fund your deal because we're the funding end, right? So we're gonna work with you regardless. But I would say for anybody who's never done one of these before, you absolutely need our TC team on board. That is a very small price to pay to make sure that everything is going to come out the way it should. All right. Next, the funder's responsibility. That's us. We provide the liquid down payment. Like I said, we can put the money into that relay account that's in your LLC, take a snapshot, provide the proof of funds, and we can confirm with title company, make sure that everything's in place. When it's time to actually close, the first close of escrow, we are going to be able to review the HUD statement, make sure that all the payoff line items are correct, and then we will wire the funds for you out of your LLC into the title, and then the money will come back to us through the attorney, and any extra money will go to you. So that's kind of our role. We just move the money around. That's our role as the funders.
Can I intercede here really quickly before you move on?
Yes.
In terms of those of you who are on this Zoom right now, if you've closed a Morby, or our team calls it a stack deal, can you please put a 1 in the chat? If you have already closed a Morby or a stack deal, and put a 2 if you have not.
I can't see that right now because I'm sharing.
I can.
Are there any ones?
There's a lot of 2s right now.
Okay.
Which is great. I love it. I love seeing the 2s. Okay. So with that being said, and thank you for being honest and transparent, because I know when I was learning, I would probably never have raised my hand or admitted that either at some point down the road. So, but just to let you know, for those of you who are new and you're coming to learn this acquisition strategy, because that's what it is, right? And the complexity of it, our team then is immediately going to recommend, highly, highly, highly recommend and require that you work with our TC, our attorney on the back end, right, to get you started and get you going. Because you just are still learning, and so we want to make sure that you are in compliance, right, with those state rules and regulations, that you have an attorney, because that's what our team provides, is the attorney, the TCs, the paperwork. You're not going to go on this alone, right? And that's really critical when you're first learning the Morby and acquisition strategy. And there's just so many layers to it. There really are so many as you go along. And what our team does is we do provide not just the systems and the processes, but the back end team that has the experience to get you through, right? And so just to that point, I wanted to kind of see if we were talking to some experienced investors in here or anyone else that may have done a Morby, and just to clarify, having that 1,400 is going to be major security for you moving forward in that deal, right? And making sure that we can get you through and push through. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's all I wanted to intercede.
All right. Thanks. Thanks,
Hmm.
Marcella. Okay, let me go on my last one here. The last responsibility is the responsibilities of the attorney. The attorney's critical role at closing. The attorney ensures the legal integrity of the entire stack method transaction, from verifying seller intent to distributing funds correctly. So number one, we verify the seller's cognitive willingness, confirm that the seller understands and willingly participates. In one deal, the attorney had to verify that a 90-year-old seller was not being defrauded and fully understood the agreement. We just want to make sure that the seller isn't going to come back and go, hey, wait a minute. This, again, it's that compliance thing. We want to make sure you're not going to end up with some kind of a lawsuit. So we want to make sure that the seller is 100% on board with the carryback. Secondly, creating the note. They draft the note according to the buyer's specific instructions. We do not come up with the terms of the note. That is the buyer's responsibility. We just execute on that, or I should say the attorney executes on that, right? And they want to ensure that all the terms are accurately captured. They also do the distribution process. They take the money from title that the seller has agreed to send over to the attorney, and then they distribute that money. They send back to us. Well, okay, let me get ahead of myself here. They record the note and deliver it to the seller, and then they ensure that the funder, that's us, money is returned to us with our fee, and then any extra funds get sent to the buyer, not back to the seller. So that way, again, you get to put some money in your pocket. That's just a basic overview of the different roles and responsibilities. I didn't talk about the DSCR lender because we've talked about that already. But this is what hopefully that was helpful. This is what we're trying to share with you guys is the different roles and responsibilities. Does anybody have any questions about that, about the different roles and responsibilities, or about the process?
And it can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, or anything really.
Yeah,
This
or any other questions you may have. It
what
doesn't
has
have to be
popped up in your
complex.
head? I mean, I know as we go through these, a lot of times people are trying to wrap their head around how the
Yeah.
money moves, or what do I have to do, or what's the next step? That's
Hmm.
the other thing we try to do is we try to just give you, okay, here's the next couple of steps. Do
Hmm.
this, do this, do this, and then come back and we'll tell you what's next. Because there's just so many steps in the process. We want to make sure you understand that.
Definitely. Everybody's very quiet. So I was going to say too, as you are looking at these properties, obviously you're looking at good. Frank, do you have a question? I just saw you unmute.
Yeah, I do
Go.
have a question.
Great.
Perfect.
Um, okay, so on the seller carry, um, after you give the funds to the buyer to close the deal with the lender, because the lender is going to want to see that there is no second being closed at the same time. Are you
Right.
then going to record the um, uh, the seller carry after it's funded, or you use the same title? How are you going to do that? What's that process?
Great question. All right, let me clarify that. In most cases, the first closing, there's two closings, okay? The first closing happens at a regular title company with a regular purchase sale agreement. The DSCR lender brings in their money, and the rest that you need to bring is going to come out of your buying LLC's account. We have you set up a Relay Bank account in your buying LLC. We fund that account, and then we move the money from there into escrow. Okay? So the first transaction closes, but part of the instructions to that title company is, hey, instead of sending 100% of the proceeds over to Mr. Seller over here, please send 130K over here to the attorney. So they'll get their money, the seller will get their upfront money that they're going to get at closing, at the first closing, and then the rest of the money goes over to the attorney. And that amount is the remaining amount that the seller carry is the note said, okay? So that money gets sent over to the attorney, and you're exactly right. We want to separate those two things. They don't happen simultaneously, and they don't happen at the same title company. That causes a lot of confusion, and in some cases, it can really mess things up. It's not compliant. So the first closing happens, the extra money goes to the attorney, and then as soon as the attorney has that money, he can go ahead and record the note and then send that over to the seller. So now the seller has the note for the agreed terms for the seller carryback amount that they're going to get paid over time, whatever those terms are. And then the attorney sends us our money back, which is the down payment, closing costs, and our fee. And then any extra money that's left over, the attorney sends directly to you as the buyer, and you get that money. So yes, we definitely do those two transactions separately. One happens at the title company, the other one happens with our attorney. Does that clear it up
Yeah,
now?
that answers it actually. Now, two questions. One, are you doing these in like I'm in California, it's not an attorney state, so you doing these in California as well? And two, when the like in California we use escrow, so when the escrow prepares that final HUD, won't they put it's on a purchase on the seller side who they dispersed? Maybe
It'll
I'm
say
overthinking.
it'll
Maybe I'm
say
overthinking it here because wouldn't the attorney, because the funds are being dispersed, or at least a part of it is being dispersed to the attorney, and then the
right.
remainder is going to the seller. So wouldn't that be on the
That
seller
would
HUD?
be. That would be on the HUD. What it would show, I believe, on the HUD is that the seller has requested that X amount of dollars get sent over to this attorney. So it
Okay.
would just be like, hey, I'm the seller. I'm taking this money and I want some of it to go to my attorney. The
Yeah,
seller,
that
the
makes sense.
seller, the seller's going to sign those instructions to the title company, so the title company knows what to do with the money that they would normally send all to the seller, but in this case, they're going to send some to the seller and some to the attorney. But that would just be one line item on a HUD, and it's not weird because people do that all the time. They go, hey, I need to send this money, this much to this person over here.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Great questions, Frank. And I know Austin has a question in the chat. How long does the money have to be in the Relay bank account before it can be sent back out? So
Great. So here's
great question.
another thing that we talk about, and that's the seasoning, sourcing and seasoning. Sourcing we take care of with the Relay bank account in your purchasing LLC. But in terms of seasoning, different DSCR lenders have different requirements. Some DSCR lenders want to see that that money is sitting in your bank account for, 3 statements, 3 months. We have to see the funds are sitting there for 3 months. That's called seasoning. If that happens, we find a new DSCR lender because we can't do that. We can't have our funds sitting in your Relay bank account for 3 months. It just doesn't work. Our process is money in, money out, same day. Okay. And so what we do is we find DSCR lenders who all they need is a snapshot. If they need to see a liquid POF, we most people who do proof of funds charge 1% for putting the money in, taking a snapshot, and pulling it back out. That's typical. Typically, they charge 1%. Our team, if you're working with us on a stack method deal, we don't charge for POF. We will put the money in, take the snapshot of the Relay bank account, pull the money back out, and then send that snapshot to the DSCR lender. We intentionally are working with lenders who that will satisfy the sourcing requirement in terms of the snapshot for the proof of funds. So again, we cannot do seasoning over any length of time because that ties up our money that we can't then lend out somewhere else. And the time cost of money is pretty high, right? And so our capital partners do not want their money tied up sitting in a bank account somewhere for seasoning. So that's why we work with DSCR lenders who have, basically no seasoning requirements, but just sourcing requirements that are met by a snapshot proof of funds.
And you can unmute if you want to, Austin, but I'm just reading your questions. If you can. Yeah, great.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Tim,
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess that's kind of a scary part for some people then. Have you seen a deal fall apart because a certain DSCR lender wanted to season an account and then that wiped the deal out because another DSCR lender wasn't able to pick up the second portion of the deal? That could get pretty scary.
What do you mean? What do you mean by the second portion of the deal?
Well, okay, so you mentioned that obviously we closed the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they need to, I guess you're seasoning on the first loan then, right?
Yeah. This is all on
Okay,
the
so this is
DSCR
even
lender.
before.
So there's no like
I was like, well, if one person gets paid and the other doesn't, wow, that
exactly.
would
No,
be.
That would be bad, Austin. You're right. That would be,
All of
yeah.
this, all of the requirements that need to be met with the DSCR lender happen way before that first closing. We have to make sure, and here's the thing, and this has happened with some of the clients that our team has helped. There
Mhm.
has been cases where they started off with one DSCR lender, and then our team found out, hey, this isn't going to meet our requirements, and they had to go back to the drawing board and find another DSCR lender. If that's the case, it could lengthen the process, which is why we always encourage our buyers to let the seller know, hey, this is a longer process. You're going to get the price you want. We're going to give you the terms that we agreed on the note, but this isn't going to be a quick close. This isn't going to be a 2-week deal. I
Mhm.
would say let's give it 6 to 8 weeks. When you say it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks and you close in 5, they're happy, right? But if you say it's going to take 3 weeks and it takes 6, they're going to be really mad. So we just say up front, just let them know this is a longer process. That gives you a little more time to get that DSCR lender that you need that's going to work. And if the first one doesn't work, you find another one. That's why that is the legwork. That is the hard thing. People say, okay, well, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Well, what's the hard part? The hard part is getting the right lender and getting everything in place and having everything fit with our system and with their requirements. You
Mhm.
have to have the DSCR lender's requirements have to match with our system. And when we find that match, then we're off to the races.
Okay. I have another question that may not be tied to this. I hope I'm not taking anybody else's
No,
question time, but
you're
are
good.
you guys going to do a session where we break down maybe how these conversations could go with the seller? I mean, trying to describe this to a seller could be obviously if we know it as well as you do, maybe that gets a little bit easier. But the first time, hey, I want to buy your property, so on and so forth. Like, do you
Yes,
any
I love
plan
it.
something like that?
I
Because
love
I
Yes,
would
that idea,
I
Austin.
love it.
love
You know
Yeah.
that.
what?
I'm not afraid to get on the phone with people.
No, 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 but you don't know what that conversation should be like. I got you. You
Yeah.
know what? That's great. You just gave me my
Because a lot
topic
of
for,
people won't understand it. A lot of sellers, especially if they're,
Mhm.
haven't been in the game a while, maybe it's a second home or whatever.
Mhm.
They may be like, "What are you talking about? Just
Right.
no, I'm not going to do this deal, and it could kill a deal."
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
no. And I was going to just intercede here too, because I think you and I might have talked about this, Austin, on the side in terms of even just using the words seller carryback financing. Most of us here, if not all of us here, are in a creative finance world, so to speak. And so whether you're in PACES communities like we are, or just have heard of creative financing in general, right? So you are familiar with the term seller carryback financing, but going to a seller who has probably never heard of even the term creative finance. They know the traditional route, right, of selling a home or buying a home, but they're not familiar with the seller carry or even seller finance, actually, even starting there. Have you heard of seller finance? Right? If you think about just that alone, well, what is that? And
Yeah.
explaining to them that there are terms that can be agreed upon that would work long term for them to receive monthly payments, right? Are you even open to that part? Let alone, are you open to carrying back some of your equity? That's
Mhm.
another whole different conversation.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And start off with questions like, this is a great, what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. I love your question so much. This is going to be our topic for 2 weeks from now. Why not next week? Because next week we have a special guest. We have
Yes,
an
we're so
actual,
excited.
we have an actual DSCR lender who does stack method deals, who's going to come in and answer your questions about, hey, what do I got to bring to the table to get qualified for a DSCR loan? And he's going to be here, is a friend of ours who works out of Denver, but he's got experience with these.
Yeah.
And so next week, don't miss next week. We're going to have a special guest. The DSCR lender is going to be here, and he is going to answer your questions about that. So thank you very much, because now we have our topic for the week after that, which is going to be,
Thanks to Austin.
why would the seller want
Austin,
to
we're
do
gonna
this?
have you role play. We'll have you role play. Okay.
Why would the
Oh
seller want?
boy.
Oh, Marcella's the queen of role plays. We might have
Of
to actually do
course.
that.
Of
We'll do a role
course.
play. No, but I was going to
Yeah.
say that, what I would say is start with some questions. Hey, do you need all your money up front? Are you worried about tax liability? What are you doing with this money? There's things like that that you can ask to kind of prime the pump, and then go, okay, well, here's a strategy that might work that would benefit us both. See,
Right.
you start with that kind of language. But again, if you've never had that conversation, you don't know what to say. So we'll cover that in 2 weeks. I'll look through and get some good, like, sentence starters or questions you can ask or approaches that you can use to start that conversation. That's a great question. So
And
we'll
I
we'll
think,
we'll
yeah,
tackle that. We'll tackle
I
that
love
on
it. And
week
I was
number
going to
6.
say too, Austin, to your point and to everyone else on here, like, the type of property really that you're looking for are those properties that we're seeing everywhere. The reason our team has been funding, oh, I mean, over last year was over 100 plus. I don't even know the numbers we're at right now, and it's May, but we're up there really high, in terms of like just Morbies themselves. And why is that? Why is that still happening in 2026? It's because these homes are just sitting with a ton of equity, right? So those sellers are trying to sell their homes. They really do want to sell. They have a lot of equity in the property, but they're not getting that price point that they're looking for, right? And that's your initial. So whether that's multifamily, that applies to commercial, right? Some of these you've already seen it. I think I think Pace called it one of the Zooms. I'll never forget this. He called it like the tsunami, the silver tsunami. That's what he called it, the silver tsunami. And the reason he called it that, and I just enjoyed that Zoom. And that was like 2 years ago, where he had predicted that this is coming, where there's going to be a wave, an influx of properties, whether it's single family, multifamily, commercial, and they are now ready to let go of those properties because they've had them for a long time, right? They're done. They don't want the responsibility anymore. Right now, we have another partner of ours that is, I think it's 38 units. He's working through all Morbies for 38 units. Okay, that's huge. That's a huge complex, right? But the seller's like, I'm done. I'm ready to talk seller carryback financing. Let's do this, right? And so I'm just saying the opportunities are endless, and we do fund nationwide. So we can help out in any state.
What property types is just 1 to 4 units or above that?
No, we've had some multifamilies, even commercial deals. A lot of that comes down to the lending. Had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I was just explaining to them, look, like in the game of Monopoly, you don't start off buying a hotel. Okay, you have to buy 4 houses first, and then you get some experience, and then you buy a hotel. But it seems like all the creative finance people out there all want to start off buying a 50 unit apartment complex. Well, okay, do you have the experience? Do you have the capital to back it up? Do you have the credit? Do you know how to underwrite something like that? Okay. What I recommend is this: there's nothing wrong with starting with the hotel as long as you have a partner who already owns 3 of them and can JV with you so that they can do the heavy lifting while you're trying to learn how to do that. But in terms of what can work, pretty much here's the thing that our funding team always says: if you can get a new loan, if the seller has enough equity to cover the down payment, closing costs, and fees, and the seller's willing to carry back, we can get it done. Now, the tricky part is, can you get the loan? We've had a lot of people that come to us and say, hey, can you do buying zero down for a business? And we're like, that's awesome. That would be great. But as we've talked to a lot of people, it's a challenge because a small business loan, right? Those small business loans have much stricter underwriting. And almost always they require that you have some skin in the game. And so they're going to verify. They may ask for seasoning, before they'll qualify you for that kind of a business loan. We can't do the seasoning, right? So that's where you're going to run into a problem. But here's the thing. If you want to buy a business, it may not be zero down, but what if they only need you to put 10% skin in the game? Can you come up with the 10% and then do a seller carryback for the rest, which makes it more feasible for you? Right? So there's all different ways of doing this. It doesn't have to be 100% zero down. You can do the stack method with partly your money and partly the seller's carryback. You can do a hybrid, and that's a possibility too. So again, the possibilities are limitless as long as you can get the loan in place, the seller has enough equity, and the seller's willing to carry back enough of that equity to cover what we need to cover. But yeah, it's really not limited to any particular property type so much as it's limited to what kind of a loan can you qualify for.
And I know that Austin did ask in the chat. Great question, Austin. But what types of properties are most successful in this style of a deal? So basically, what works best for, like, the Morbies, or this, we call, our team calls them the stack, because you're basically stacking two loans right on top of each other.
Right.
So we will call them the stack method or the Morby method, which is what's more common. But I mean, expired listings, definitely we've seen it work with on market. We actually have a borrower right now who is in Florida, and he is looking at on market listings as well and working. But then there's the other layer of that, right? Which is, if you're working with on market, you're also looking at partnering with that agent to get this property across the finish line. So now, is that agent knowledgeable in seller carryback financing, or do they understand that process, right? And there are plenty of agents, like I know several here in Phoenix, that are investors as well. They are familiar with seller finance. They're familiar with seller carryback financing, right? So not to say it's not possible, but if you are working with on-market properties, Austin, you're going to want to make sure that is one of your initial questions is, are you, is your seller, number one, open to anything creative, any other type of creative finance? And if so, are you then familiar with seller finance, seller carryback financing, right? You want to find out more about their experiences, and also if their brokerage is familiar with that. And, because I know there's also that stipulation. This particular borrower in Florida, he's actually going to close with us. We are clear to close with him on May 14th. We are super stoked to help him close on his very first Morby. So super excited for him in the beautiful Gulf Coast waters of Florida, which is like the best, right? And so anyway, so originally, when he came to us, he was working with an agent on some on-market deals, and he had to really pivot because that agent she wasn't understanding, and it was just something that she was going more the traditional route. We totally understand. And so he, as a borrower, then had to pivot with whom am I working with. He started going direct to seller. And that's usually your fastest route, is direct seller, because you're not having to, partner with somebody in that process, right, throughout that deal. Does that make sense?
I just want to add too that we have had some people that asked us, hey, will this work with a sub 2 deal? And unfortunately, if you're talking about a subject to where you're taking over the person's mortgage, you're missing the first piece. There's no new loan in place. So you cannot do a stack method with a sub 2, because you're going to keep the loan, right? The whole thing with a sub 2 is you keep the loan in place. So that's one situation that won't work, but there's so many other that will. Hey, we're getting to the top of the hour here. We appreciate you guys coming in so much. Invite a friend to come out next Wednesday, especially since we're going to have that Q&A with our DSCR lender. And we'll look forward to answering your questions more next week. In the meantime, as always, if you have a question or you have a deal, reach out to us. You guys know how to get a hold of us. You can schedule a individual appointment with Marcella or myself on our Calendly links. Not the one for this, but there's separate Calendly links. And I think you guys have our information. If you don't, scan the code here that you have for us, and you guys can get our contact information, and everything is in there in terms of our Calendly links, our website, our YouTube channel, our Instagram, everything. Hey, follow us all over the place. We appreciate you guys. Does anybody have any last minute burning questions? Yes, Cindy.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Are these meetings recorded?
Yes, we have the Fathom recorder going, and what I'll do is sometime in the next week, hopefully tonight, I will send out an email with a link. It's going to give you a summary and a recording so that you can see everything we did tonight.
Is there a way to get it if I can't make it? Because I already know next week is our regional meetup, and they have a guest speaker that I wanted to see. And
Yes. if you reach out to Marcella, send her an email after next Wednesday and say, Marcella, would you please send me the Fathom link for Wednesday night? I missed the meeting, but I would love to get the Fathom recording.
Yeah.
If you will send that email to Marcella after
Okay.
Wednesday, she will gladly send you that link.
Stay on there for a second so I can, oh, I need Marcella a second so I can get her blank
Yes.
Of
thingy.
course.
Sorry. I
No
already
No,
have
worries.
it's
yours,
all
Tim.
Okay.
good. Did it work, Cindy?
Hold on here.
Okay. Thanks for coming
Okay.
in, everyone. It was good seeing everyone.
Thanks,
And
guys.
please
I
reach
think
out if
some
you have any
people are already
questions.
heading out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's
Thank
great seeing you,
you.
Cindy.
We'll
Nice
see you.
meeting
Maybe
you.
we'll see you in 2 weeks for the
Yeah.
why would the seller want to do this, right?
There we go. Perfect.
Benji, how are you, my friend? Good to see you, man.
Benji, did you end up getting up on your phone? Is that what happened? He had a hard time getting in again this week.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on, man, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're able to get in. Did Marcella answer all your questions today? I know you had some questions.
Oh yeah, she answers everything. It's perfect.
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry that I could not answer your call. I was busy with about 30 high school kids at the time. So
Oh,
Yeah.
it's quite. No, my son did a fantastic job. We just needed clarify some things so we could make sure we're on the same page.
awesome, man. We're so excited for you to find that first deal that really works out and get it rocking and rolling for you.
Yeah, we're gonna underwrite all the 5 today. Once Michelle send me that, we're gonna underwrite the 5 of them and put them in and see how it works.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you next week. I know, Cindy, we'll see you probably in 2 weeks, but we'll get
Yeah.
that recording to you and have a wonderful
Perfect.
night.
Sounds great. Have a good night.